My name is Jabriera Handy, and I'm 21 years old. Now I'm sitting there, and my best friend is asking me what's going on, and I'm like, me and Grandma got in an argument. I might need to stay the night. So she was like, okay, cool. But then we saw the police lights at my house, and then I saw the ambulance at my house. So I'm talking to her, and I'm like, Grandma faking. Like she just, she playing too much. Like this is not the time to play. And come to find out after that, the police came to her door, said they had a body attachment warrant for me, and they actually arrested me at that point and told me they wanted to talk to me. They didn't read me my rights or anything like that. They just said that we want to talk to you, have this conversation about what happened to your grandmother. Now, as I'm walking down the street towards my house where the police cars were parked at, my sister yelled off the porch crying. My mother actually said, they trying to say you killed grandma. So at that point, I'm like, what? And they was shutting the door of the police car. The juvenile court said they wouldn't charge me with anything because a heart attack, which my grandmother had, was a natural cause. And I wasn't there at the time that it happened, so I shouldn't get charged with it. So I was allowed to go home. And then after that, that's when my brother called and was like, well, they doing an investigation on the house. They taking photos, asking a lot of questions about how you were in school and things like that. So I think that you should get a lawyer. And they had put a warrant out for my arrest probably the day before. I went to my juvenile lawyer and asked him what was going on. He told me about the warrant, and I turned myself in on Baltimore Street that day at the police station. I was probably a little cricket in a big grasshopper world, if you could say that. I was I was transferred with the adults. I was the smallest thing in the biggest jumpsuit. You couldn't even really see me, and I was scared to death. One time they did a security check, and I wasn't where I was supposed to be. I was in the dorm, but I wasn't in my bed. I got 2 weeks in solitary confinement with no, I didn't get to talk to any CO. The adults used to bring me my food, and that was about it. We just stayed there 24/7, one shower a week. And then the other time I went to solitary confinement was for a fight, where my ticket said I was only supposed to spend 2 weeks, but I spent 36 days there without any contact with, the correctional officers or the lieutenant or anything like that. I actually pled guilty to a manslaughter so I can get waived down because I was denied my waiver hearings twice. One judge told me no, and the other judge told me that he wouldn't step on another judge's toes. So when I actually went to the juvenile system, I could see the difference. So when we were there and we had a counselor that talked to us probably twice a week and let us get phone calls out to our family. And we had a psychologist that would come around when you needed her. Like they would call for you and you could talk about your feelings and stuff like that. We had, groups. We did arts and crafts and certain things that would help you cope with what you're feeling if you didn't want to talk to anybody. So they had these different coping methods and different groups that you can use to, while you're spending your time there. And then they also had the family touch visits. You can actually hug your mom or your dad or your aunt or your uncle when you're there. Whereas in the jail, you would see them through a glass or through a fence or whatever, and you wasn't really able to touch them. So now I have been working for the Just Kids Partnership for 4.5 years, and our goal is to stop the automatic prosecution of youth charged as adults. So, and I'm also a national spokesperson for a DC campaign called Campaign for Youth Justice. I go around and I tell my story to those who elected officials or those who want to start their own campaign around this issue, and I tell them how kids are being treated, how they should be being treated, how it's better for them to be in juvenile system, and how we can change the laws. I also go speak to communities. I have host community events, movie screenings. I do tabling events at different farmers markets, and I throw myself out there. If I sit next to a person on a bench and have a conversation with them, more than likely it's going to come up as a juvenile justice reform situation, rather than I probably mentioned my daughter once or twice, but I will more than likely talk to juvenile, like, about juveniles, because I want to change. I want to be that person that they say, oh, well, Jabriera did this, and she was in the system and she ultimately changed her whole life around.